At the trading company where I work, there was a rather unusual receptionist. Normally, you'd expect receptionists to look like models, but she had a round face, was a bit chubby, and on the shorter side. She had a charming, cute face, but her vibe was definitely different from other receptionists. I visit that company once a week, and one day, I noticed her cheeks buffed out like a squirrel's. Wondering what was up, I realized she was sucking on candy. Having her speak to me with something in her mouth caught me off guard, and I burst into laughter. She laughed too, looking a bit embarrassed. That was how I started dating Lillian. Lillian was the epitome of the phrase free spirit. Being with her often caught me off guard because of her unpredictable antics, but I couldn't take my eyes off her. 3 years into our relationship, when I proposed, she dropped a bombshell on me.
I didn't mention it before, but my dad is the CEO of our company.
As Lillian happily slid the ring I gave her onto her finger, she said, "Wait, CEO?"
Yeah, the CEO. I was working as a receptionist because my dad asked me to. I was the only not-so-pretty one, right?
No, I never thought of you as ugly. Wait, what? My mind went blank. Hold on. Does that mean Lillian is the heiress? Why didn't you tell me sooner?
Well, it doesn't really matter, right? Or would you not have liked me if you knew I was the CEO's daughter?
Her innocent smile left me speechless again. Lillian lived alone in a small studio apartment. I'd been to her place a few times, and it wasn't extravagant. But she had some expensive things and more pricey items. I just thought her family might be well off. I never imagined she was the heiress to our client's company. Lillian finally broke the silence. "I accept your proposal. Looking forward to our future together." She put her hand out.
My dad knows about us, Bob. He said he's more than happy to welcome the man I chose. Don't worry. My dad's a bit eccentric.
Remembering the CEO, whom I'd met a few times, I nodded. I'd heard Lillian's dad, the CEO, was the third generation running the company. Rumor had it he was a rich kid who just continued running the company the same way his parents did. But I didn't dislike him. He was very much like Lillian, and when I went to ask for Lillian's hand in marriage, he welcomed me with a big smile. Married life was smooth until our daughter, Rose, was born. Issues began cropping up when Rose turned 3.
I want to get Rose into Spanish classes.
Spanish. Rose is only 3.
I started learning Spanish, Chinese, and French when I was 3 too.
Of course, she'd say that. She's a CEO's daughter, I thought to myself.
The tuition is about $2,000, but my dad said he'd cover it, so don't worry, okay, Bob?
We can't let your dad pay that.
But we can't afford it with your salary, right? And my dad also said he wants her to learn ballet. It's for his precious granddaughter, so why not?
With a big smile, I'm easily persuaded. Feeling overwhelmed by the thought of spending $3,500 a month on English and ballet classes, I tried to object, but it didn't end there. She wanted to enroll Rose in a prestigious private school with an integrated curriculum from elementary to college. I firmly opposed that and had Rose attend a local public school instead. But Lillian started showering Rose with expensive clothes, shoes, and bags. She'd buy new items even if the old ones were barely used, discarding them like they were nothing. Enough is enough. How much are you spending on Rose?
Oh, just about $10,000 a month. And it's all covered by my dad, so it's not a burden on you, right?
$10,000? Aren't you supposed to manage our household with my salary?
So you want to dress Rose in raggedy clothes?
I'm saying don't dress a 6-year-old in a sweater that costs hundreds of dollars. Arguments like this became frequent, and often, Lillian would take Rose and head to her parents' home. Lillian's father, the CEO, always scolded me, saying, "Don't make my daughter and granddaughter live a poor life." This became a recurring pattern in our lives. This went on, and eventually, I was completely drained. I realized for the first time how nerve-wracking it is to live with someone whose values are so different from mine. After 13 years of marriage, when Rose started middle school, we finally got divorced. I took custody of Rose. Of course, Lillian and my mother-in-law insisted on taking her, but Rose herself chose to live with me. Now at 12, Rose said, "I don't hate Mom, you know. I wish you guys didn't have to get divorced. But I've been struggling too."
Why is it hard? If you live with Grandpa, you'd live more lavishly than now. You won't even be able to wear branded clothes with your dad.
Lillian tried desperately to persuade her. But Rose exclaimed softly, "That's what I hated."
I never had friends. I always looked different. And because of English lessons and ballet, I never had time to play with anyone. I just want to be normal.
Hearing that, even Lillian couldn't say anything further. Rose mentioned that she would visit occasionally, and with a nod, Lillian returned to her family's mansion. 5 years went by. I never met Lillian again, but it seemed Rose met her frequently. I was fine with that. It's not like I grew to hate her and broke things off. I was just exhausted by our extremely different values and chose to separate. I knew this from the start. Sometimes, I even felt sorry for Lillian. Then one day at work, a colleague, David, told me something shocking.
"You hear about Mr. Parker's place. Sounds rough."
Mr. Parker is Lillian's father. Rough, you mean?
There's serious talk of a takeover. Apparently, the employees want it since they don't trust Mr. Parker as a CEO.
I see.
Well, it's none of your business now.
David patted my shoulder and walked away. I sighed secretly. I'd heard rumors for some time about Mr. Parker's company being taken over by a foreign corporation. Indeed, the old man, being a third-generation owner, had a bit of a laid-back attitude and some strange ideas about money. Just like his daughter, I thought. However, unlike Lillian, Mr. Parker was the CEO. It was more than just his sense of money being off. 2 months later, I learned that Mr. Parker's company was taken over and he was removed as CEO. I didn't hear a thing from Lillian, which was expected. Rose and I were in our 6th year living together. Now 18, Rose was studying hard for her college entrance exams. "Your birthday's this month, right? Anything you want?" I asked during breakfast, and after thinking for a bit, Rose said something I wasn't expecting. "I don't need anything. I just want you to visit Mom." Visit Mom? Why? She didn't answer. She seemed on the verge of saying something but stood up without a word.
Never mind. It's nothing.
It's clearly something. What's on your mind?
It's really fine. I'll leave the gift up to you. I'm looking forward to it, okay?
She then headed out, saying she was leaving. What was that about? I wondered, feeling uneasy. But I had to get ready for work, so I got up and left. The following Sunday, I drove to a large shopping mall about an hour from home. Naturally, to buy Rose's birthday gift. The mall was bustling with families on their day off, making it hard to browse leisurely. Well, what to get her? I wondered. I can't really gift my 18-year-old daughter a stuffed animal anymore. But then again, things like clothes or shoes might not match her taste, making them hard to pick. Maybe jewelry would be safe. There was a store that sold gemstones, so I decided to check it out. For Rose, born in September, sapphire is her birthstone.
Welcome.
A young woman in her early 20s approached. "I'm looking for a birthday gift for my daughter, but I am not sure what to get."
How old will your daughter be?
"She'll be turning 18.
Well, these designs over here are quite popular.
I looked at a few options, but none seemed to fit Rose's image. Seeing my indecision, the store associate offered, "We can custom make something for you."
However, we can't do it at this location. We have our main store down on Main Street. If you purchase a gemstone, the crafting is free. How does that sound?
Hearing this, it reminded me of something from the past. I think it was Rose's 7th or 8th birthday. Lillian had bought some glass beads and made a handmade bracelet for her. Rose cherished it more than any branded item and still keeps it. Well, I'll do that. I picked out some stones. Following the woman's advice, I bought a silver chain. I planned to head straight to the main store, but I got hungry and stopped at a diner. As I was looking at the menu, a loud argument from a table behind me caught my attention.
Why do I have to repeat myself so many times? There's an order to doing things.
I'm sorry.
I don't want to hear sorry. How old are you? Even a high schooler in their first job would be more useful than you.
Upon hearing Rose's question, Lillian glanced at me briefly. It seemed a seasoned part-timer was teaching a newbie, but the shouting was unbearable. Though I thought it might be none of my business, I didn't want to dine listening to that, so I got up. Maybe you should calm down and instruct her somewhere private. This is honestly annoying for the customers. Both women looked at me. For a moment, I was stunned. Lillian?
Bob.
To my astonishment, the woman being scolded was Lillian. She looked nothing like her former self, with disheveled hair and skin resembling that of an elderly woman. I apologize for the inconvenience. I'll handle this immediately. A man, presumably the manager, intervened and took the other woman to the back. Lillian and I were left staring at each other.
Did Rose tell you?
She asked, barely audible. I shook my head. No, it's a coincidence. I was at the nearby mall and…
At the mall?
Yes, I was buying a gift for Rose. Hearing this, Lillian shivered as if struck by lightning.
Right, it's her birthday.
Tears welled up in her eyes. Hurriedly wiping them away, Lillian mumbled, "I have to get back to work," and tried to leave. I quickly asked, "When do you finish? I want to talk." "I'll pick you up when you're done." Frantically speaking, Lillian seemed unsure but nodded. However, she eventually said, "I'll be off by 5 p.m., and then vanished into the kitchen. Lillian came out from the back door, and we talked in the car. I knew her father had been fired as CEO, but I never imagined he had passed away.
He never drank before, but he started drinking heavily every day and unexpectedly passed away from acute liver cirrhosis. Not a cent was left in inheritance, just a pile of debts. As a result, the house was put up for sale and everything from cars to boats was let go. I'm living alone now."
Her forced smile was just heart-wrenching, and I couldn't help but look away.
You probably think I got what I deserved, huh? Just like the grasshopper in the story of the ant and the grasshopper. Living carelessly, buying whatever I wanted, throwing things away when I was done, and before I knew it, nothing was left.
She tightly gripped her knees. Her hands were chapped and worn out.
I can't even buy a gift for Rose's birthday. I constantly ignored what Bob had to say. I was such a foolish wife. I'm sorry.
She looked deeply sorry, and I was speechless. I don't think she got what she deserved, but it did seem like a series of inevitable consequences. However, I also felt maybe she finally realized it. Here. I pulled out a bag from my pocket that contained the stone I bought earlier and handed it to Lillian.
What is it?
It's Rose's birthstone. Weren't you always good with your hands? Make something for Rose with it.
Me?
Remember when you made that bracelet for Rose? She still treasures it. She values it more than any brand name item. Hearing this, Lillian hesitantly took the bag. I'll be back next week to pick it up. Can you do it? Lillian nodded and shed a tear. I silently waited until she stopped crying. The apartment I dropped her off at was much more run down than I had imagined. When I got home, I asked Rose, "Did you know about your mom's situation?" Rose nodded, and I told her about our unexpected meeting earlier in the day. By the end, Rose was crying, pleading, "Please, Dad, help Mom out." To which I replied, "I'll do what I can." Even though I said that, I wasn't sure about what to do. As harsh as it sounds, I didn't think it was right for us to get back together at this point. Instead, I wanted to help Lillian stand on her own 2 feet. Then, what seemed like a godsend, an opportunity came knocking. During lunch break, the HR manager, whom I happened to be dining with, mentioned, "We're looking for someone fluent in Chinese."
A translator and interpreter. We had just found out she's pregnant and suddenly quit. We're in a bind.
Chinese? I remember Lillian was good at Spanish and Chinese. I know the perfect woman for the job. Not only is she fluent in Chinese, but also in Spanish and French. Could we possibly set up an interview?
Really? That would be a great help. Please contact her right away and let her know we'd like her to come in.
I nodded with excitement. That night, I asked Rose to get in touch with her mom. Her upbringing as a privileged young lady was finally going to pay off. Half a year passed. Lillian seemed to be working enthusiastically at our company every day. Though we work in different departments, I've heard from various colleagues about how outstanding Lillian is. Sometimes, Rose would bring Lillian home. She'd cook dinner for us, dishes like meat and potatoes or a simple vegetable stir-fry, and I couldn't help but chuckle inwardly. It was hard to believe this was the same woman who used to serve caviar and high-end steaks daily.
Mom, when will you come back?
Upon hearing Rose's question, Lillian glanced at me briefly.
Well,
She trailed off, looking down. Her once gaunt face had now filled out a bit, resembling the Lillian I once knew. Will there ever be a time when we reconcile? But I don't think that time is right now. At the very least, I want to watch over Lillian as she's finally started to navigate her life as an adult. When Mom saves up $10,000, maybe. I joked. Lillian responded, "That's a piece of cake for me."
You're one to talk, Mom. If I hadn't stopped you the other day, you would have bought that Gucci wallet, right?
oh well, I just thought it looked nice.
On Rose's chest swayed a sapphire necklace she had made.